Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Getz Pharma's talk today on World Environment Day. Our topic for today is the role of corporate sector in protecting the environment. And our esteemed panelists for today include Hamad Naki Khan, who's the Director General of WWF Pakistan, and Khalid Mahmood and Managing Director. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Assalamu alaikum, Hamad. Hamad Naki Khan is the Director General of WWF Pakistan since 2014. As Global Cotton Leader under WWF International's Market Transformation Initiative, he has led advocacy approaches representing WWF in multilateral fora and other policy dialogues. He is also a member of the Senior Executive Team for Asia Pacific Growth Strategy and has also represented Asia Pacific in the Network Executive Team of WWF International since 2015 till July 2018. In addition to being a member of SWG and WWF GEF Steering Committee, moreover, he is a fellow of the Leadership for Environment and Development Program. Thank you, Ahmad Saab, for joining us.
Thank you, Aisha.
Khalid Mahmood Saab is a 35-year veteran. Khalid Mahmood Saab is a 35 veteran in the pharmaceutical healthcare industry and has been leading Getz Pharma since its inception in 1995. Under his leadership, Getz Pharma has grown from a handful of employees to over 6,500 employees with presence in over 25 countries. Getz Pharma has become the second largest pharmaceutical company in Pakistan and has been the highest exporter of medicines since the past 15 years. Getz Pharma's manufacturing facility is the only WHO pre-qualified and pre-approved in Pakistan. Getz Pharma is committed to not only producing world-class quality medicines, but is also keenly involved and supports several CSR efforts, at the forefront of which is protection of the environment. Khalid Saab has also served previously in the board of WWF, and his personal commitment to protecting the environment has been evident to the employees and the people and the company's values. Welcome, both of you, and I'd like to thank Hamad Saab, who is joining us from Islamabad today. Hamad Saab, may I begin the conversation with you, please?
Sure, please go ahead.
So my first question to you today would be that in the light of global climate crisis, what do you think are the biggest environmental challenges for Pakistan? And what steps is WWF Pakistan taking in this regard?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aisha. It's a pleasure to participate in this talk. So let me start by saying that if you look at the greenhouse gas emissions of Pakistan and you compare it with other developing and developed countries, they are literally negligible. So we do not contribute towards global warming or climate change. But if you look at the impacts of climate change, we are one of the top 10 countries which will be most affected by the impacts of climate change. For us as a country, climate change is water change, because almost 60% of the water in our water bodies, it comes from snow and glacier melt and the rains. We have an agrarian economy, and most of the agriculture that we use is irrigated agriculture. And 90% of the available water, fresh water, is used for agriculture. The remaining 10% is used in the domestic sector or in the industry. Now, most scientific reports, they say that these glaciers, they are melting at a faster pace. We have already started observing the change in the rainfall pattern. We have already started observing that the frequency of natural disasters like drought and floods, they have increased. They have increased in the number, and in many places, their intensity has also increased, which means that we are, at the receiving end. Climate change for us is water change. So the second part was that what's being done. The thing is, this is a global issue and it needs like a global action, because as I said earlier, we're not contributing. They're developed world. I mean, the countries which developed, like US and Japan, Canada, Australia, and now China and India, they are the major contributors. So the government is trying, to take actions, particularly the present government. It's like a green party, maybe, in power, because the prime minister loves nature, prime minister loves outdoor. So they've started, a great initiative of planting trees. They started in KP and now at the national level. They have also declared new areas as protected areas. They have introduced the electric vehicle policy to, reduce the reliance on fossil fuels. And the most ambitious target that they set themselves, and I'm just coming from a World Environment Day event where Prime Minister again re-emphasized that by 2030, 60% of the energy produced in Pakistan will be from renewable sources. And now that's a kind of a ambitious, challenging task. And as an environmentalist, I feel satisfied. I feel happy, and I wish and pray that this target is achieved by the deadline set by the government. WWF has also, is implementing a lot of projects. Our focus is on adaptation. We want to build the capacity of communities, farmers, fishermen, so that they are ready, they are prepared to face the challenges of climate change. We are working with 200,000 farmers on cotton and the sugarcane. We are working with fishermen. We are working with industry to reduce their carbon footprint. So there are multiple initiatives that we are taking. Thank you.
You said something about the government setting a target for reducing the 60% energy by 2030. Was that, could you repeat that, please?
So the target that they are setting is that the previous governments encouraged the private sector to put up power plants, and most of these power plants, they were like based on the fossil fuels. They were for as a they run on furnace oil or gas or other fossil fuels. But this time the focus is more on renewable sources, which is hydropower, which is solar, which is wind power. So that's, I think, a big shift towards sustainability and having a clean and green environment. By 2030, 60% of the, if you look at the stream of energy, different sources, 60% will be from renewables.
As if I understand you correctly, basically Pakistan is more on the receiving end of the backlash of carbon emissions, and we are the country and the government, you think, is cognizant of the responsibility that they carry in the advocacy they need to do to protect ourselves.
So if I listen to Aisha's question, okay, Aisha, would you like to repeat or?
Gee, I will repeat. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We lost you for a bit.
Okay. You said that Pakistan is more on the receiving end of the backlash of these carbon emissions. And you said the government is also trying to build, has the goal of reducing fossil fuel emission, which increase carbon emissions. Do you think this is an achievable target?
Look, I mean, the thing is that if you look at the commitments in the past, they were not at all, significant. They were very kind of, even they were below normal. But this time the government has challenged itself. So they announced that as part of CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, there were plans to put up 3 coal-fired power plants, which, and if they, if they are imported and put up, they will be using the imported coal. But the government announced that they are shelving, these 3 coal-fired power plants. So that's like a big decision. And then they said to, offset, because they still need energy. Look at what's happening in Karachi. I mean, the load shedding is still around 10, 12 hours. The industry needs energy. So, to compensate for that, they said that we'll be putting more resources on renewables, which is solar, wind, and hydro. The couple of projects are already in the pipeline. We have seen microhydel, projects being set up in up north, where we have huge potential. So the things are moving, in that right direction, maybe at a slightly slower pace.
Okay, thank you. Khalid Saab, as a corporate leader, what do you feel is the role of the private sector in protecting the environment, and what challenges have you faced in this regard?
Okay, so Pakistan is a country which has excellent environmental regulations. They have very good guidelines of carbon footprints, emissions, and treatment of water, and etc. So I think, first of all, the private sector, leaders of the private sector, have to realize and appreciate that why it is important for them and their future generations, and for the city in which they live, to have fewer pollutants. They have to realize that it's their children, for their children's sake. It is for the sake of the future of their own health, and the children's health, and the health of the citizens. Pakistan has a very low carbon footprint, as Hamad Saab just said. However, as we industrialize, our carbon footprint is going to increase. So it is our duty to reduce the carbon footprint. So every corporate leader must familiarize himself or herself with the environmental regulations and implement them as much as possible. Government cannot do everything. But I think that each individual company has to do something. We are a city, for instance, if you take water alone, we just heard, and it's a truism, everybody talks about it, that the water crisis is around the corner. There'll be a shortage of water. However, water is not recycled. Water is not recycled, effluent is not treated. In our city, in the city in which I live, not very far from where I am sitting right now, is the sea, and the city dumps 650 million gallons of untreated water sewage into the sea. Now, who does it? What happens? Our fish is grown there, right? I mean, breeds there. So ultimately, it will be the human beings, our children, us, who will be hurt from that. Similarly, in Punjab, there are rivers, and there too there are little, few or no effluent treatment plants. Hence, all the effluent treatment goes into the rivers, and both the subcontinent has one of the most poisonous rivers in the world. So if individuals, if companies, corporate leaders would have installed effluent treatment plants, that would not have that would be reduced at least, and the load of the government would be reduced. Likewise, there are other industries that have emissions, and there are very clear guidelines. I do understand that some corporate leaders will find it difficult, because it's when they start, it's kind of difficult to do it. However, I think if corporate leaders set up some goals that every year they will take up one aspect of the environmental law and comply with it. Then, of course, over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, they will be complying with almost all the environmental regulations, and we will be reducing our footprint. Even if you have enormous industrialization and other kinds of industries which are created, cement, steel, pharmaceuticals, textiles, dyeing, etc. So I think this is the minimum, the least that the corporate leaders must do.
Sir, as a citizen and an industrialist, what would you advise or request the government to do in order to meet our future environmental challenges? Do you think enough is being done right now?
So I think as a citizen and as a corporate leader, I believe that we can do more to make the people aware of how complying with the environmental laws is in their own favor, is will help them, will help their children, will help their fellow citizens. And I think that's something that organizations, that government can do. It's a difficult objective, but I think that can be done. Similarly, I think that the provincial governments have a big role to play in the implementation of the environmental regulations, which also already exists. It has to that's the second one. The third one is that the provincial governments have to set up the effluent treatment plants, because like I said, the toxic effluents, if they are dumped into the river or into the sea, they can be very poisonous for the humans. I think some government has already done a very good job in the net metering, where as in the last few years I've seen solar even houses being having installed the
Solar
solar
panels.
power. My own company, we have the largest solar power installation in the private sector, one of the largest, and we almost 22% of our total requirements of power will come from renewable energy, which is solar, rather than from fossil fuels. So I think if this trend is encouraged, the government has done significant, I think, achievement in that, by reducing duties on solar, and like I said, the net metering, which gives them credit if they produce excess energy. So this is something which is very good.
Yes, I believe that is a huge incentive, and it should encourage people to install energy sources that don't harm the environment. This is a question for both of you. What kind of roadblocks have you faced when you're making a proposal to do something for the environment, or to build advocacy around it? Hamad, would you like to go first?
Yeah. Okay. And I would also like to, chip into your question, which you asked to Dr. Khalid, about the role of corporate sector. I strongly believe that in the last more than 2 decades, I've been working very closely with the corporate sector. I feel that they have an added responsibility because of the fact that their role in global and national economies is critical. They generate livelihood opportunities. They bring foreign exchange. They generate so obviously and they are businesses. They are here to do businesses, but a lot of them, I've seen it, particularly the companies who cater to the local market. The law of the land, as Khalid mentioned, that we have good laws. I mean, we are very good in coming up with rules, regulations, you name it, and we have it. What's the reason that we see a very poor compliance? We see multinationals complying. We see multinationals, taking voluntary action. Similarly, we see some progressive national organizations, national companies taking action, and making sincere efforts to reduce footprint, right? But we see the vast majority. I mean, the wastewater is less than 2% of the wastewater is treated. 98% is polluting our environment. 98%. This is huge.
Yeah.
The and for my question to the corporates is also, it used to be a reputational risk, okay, because now it's the age of digital media, social media. You do something wrong, or the local communities, your neighbors, your workers, if you are not providing them good occupational health and safety conditions, yeah, they get injured, or things that like happen, it will spread like wildfire. So it's not that, okay, it will appear in newspaper tomorrow, let's approach the newspaper, let's ensure that the news doesn't appear. It's not anymore. 5 minutes, it will be in every corner of the world. So and then the second thing is, as I said earlier, it's more now of a business risk. It's not a reputational risk anymore. The corporates also depend on water. Corporates also depend on different raw materials. If they do not get that raw material because of the climate change, because of the pollution, if the productivity of their workforce gets reduced because people are getting sick, and the other problem is that you ignore one sector, you ignore the environment, you ignore people, you increase the burden of another sector. Why there are increasing number of waterborne diseases in the country? Why the country, if you look at the different infections, why there is the highest number of hepatitis cases? So I think we need to revisit our strategy. Coming back to your question, the hurdles. I mean, the thing is, as I said earlier, and we have approached, we have started approaching the companies that it's not about prescribing a solution. Okay, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because we share the same environment, the values, our approach, our vision should also be a shared vision. Because at the end of the day, it's also your next generation who's going to live in this country. So let's co-create the solution, because not a single government, not a single organization can address this challenge alone. It has to be a collective action. And then we have seen companies taking action. We have seen some companies, but I tell you honestly, these are small islands of success. We need a huge ocean. We need literally everybody to play its part, from an individual, from a small company to the big corporates. Otherwise, the things, if you look at all the indicators of the health indicators, the environmental indicators, the cost which the nation and individual and families incur just because of the poor environmental condition, is going out of control. And obviously nobody can afford that. And that's the realization which we want. And the hurdle with the government is that we are asking them to have a balance between carrot and stick, give subsidies where it's required. We want the private sector to provide the green financing, because as Khalid mentioned, there are some companies who can't afford to put up maybe wastewater treatment plant. There should be a source of financing for kind of a responsible investment, the green financing. Similarly, government should give incentives to the industry who's complying. And that compliance to the local legislation should be bare minimum. We want the companies to go beyond that. But most of the companies, even, at this point in time, they are not meeting that bare minimum, and they have their own justifications and reasons. And that's the challenge that we are facing, both with the private sector and public sector. But we have examples, we have good examples, and we take these examples to others, so that others can follow that. And there has to be a business case for such investments.
Khalid Saab, listening to Hamad's input, I kind of can't help thinking that there seems to be a communication gap between what the government wants and what the private sector can do. Is that one of the problems you faced, and how is there a chain, is there a communication between the policymakers and the people who can implement these kind of changes?
So you see, implementation should start early. When we set up Getz Pharma in 1995, like you said, we only had about 19 or 20 people in the company. We've produced nothing but a few hundred or few thousand packs. And when we wrote our vision statement right from day one, we put in that we will be at the cutting edge of the environmental compliance. This was part of our vision statement. And of course, it was also that we will become a WHO compliant company. We'll get the certification for both the highest certification in the leadership in engineering and design certification, as well as in World Health Organization's good manufacturing practices and quality practices. At the time, it looked like a tall order. At the time, some of our friends laughed. Some of our people, our colleagues, did not believe it. But I think that if you do bit by bit, and if you do it from day one, you know, you can do it. It's like lifting weights. You know, if from a very early age you start running or lifting weights, you know, by the time you are 45 and you are expending the most energy, you will run more. But if you just start when you are 45 or 50, then I think it'll be very difficult for you to run that much or lift that amount of weight. So you have to start early. Number one. Number two, I believe that compliance of rules is not by vote or not by desire, not by request. I think it is a mandatory thing, and I think it has to be, the writ of the government has to be implemented. It's the government that did not obviously made these laws after a lot of thinking. So today we produce several 100 million packs of medicines. So we have a much higher effluent treatment plant, much bigger. It costs much more. But when we were small, we had a much smaller. It cost much less. Had we not started at that time and upgraded it year by year, year after year, year after year, we would not have been possible to at this time to have that big. We would not have created a culture. So I think the government has to do its bit, the private sector has to do its bits, the provincial government has to do its bit, and to create a culture. And sometimes culture has to be, of course, sold, and sometimes it has to be enforced. So I think we hope that with better governance, which inshallah we are seeing, and which will see more of it, I think these rules will have to be enforced. There are countries that I've been to which do not even dump 10 gallons of water into the sea. We dump 600 million gallons in this most beautiful, most productive sea on earth. So I think that this is, to be very candid, this is something that my advice would be, or my desire is, or my wish is, that someday we can see better level of compliance and better voluntary level of compliance as well.
Khalid Saab, I believe you have an important national announcement to make.
Yes. So I didn't expect this question, but since you asked, I'll. So basically, like I said, that when we started back in 1995, we created a vision, And our vision was that we will be the WHO compliant company. We will get the accreditation of WHO, World Health Organization, and we did. First, our quality control laboratory did in 2012. Then our factory did, and so far we are the only one in Pakistan, and inshallah, and I'm sure there many others will come. The country as large as this, as resourceful as this, there should be hundreds of WHO approved companies, and inshallah one day there will be. We also had said that we will achieve the certification of the highest level of environment. So last 2 weeks or few weeks ago, when we I'll go back, when we started building our new factory, which we call Project Astola, very aptly named after Astola, one of the most beautiful wetlands in the world, and the highest rated I think wetlands in the world, and we said that we will get the certification of by the US Green Building Council, and they have 5 layers or stages. One is member, silver, gold, and platinum. So we made an objective, we made a vision, which was a bold, big vision, and we said we will comply with the platinum. We went out to look for consultants. There was none in Pakistan for a manufacturing facility. There were many from the buildings, because the manufacturing facility emits a huge amount of emissions, carbon emissions. So there was none in Pakistan. So we hired a consultant from Sri Lanka, and we worked with him. And in order to get a gold or a platinum compliant, you have to start before you actually put in the first brick. So you have to start at that designing stage. There are hundreds of things that you have to consider. It's a lot. I would say it is significant investment also, but I think it pays back. Just like quality pays back, compliance to environment also pays back. So we implemented and worked very hard. Our team, our engineers, our management team have worked very hard. Our project team worked very hard, and we finally got the USGBC did our audit, and I'm very happy to announce that they rated us, they accredited us, or approved our facility to be a platinum level LEEDs certification. Now, the most important thing in this is, thank you, Matt. The most important thing is that this is the only pharmaceutical factory in the entire South Asia.
Wow.
Not even in India, there is a single platinum compliant pharmaceutical factory. Of course, in other countries, there are textile factories which are platinum compliant. In Bangladesh, way back in 1993, they had set up a first platinum compliant textile factory. But you know, textile is even if a house is platinum compliant or an office is, it's a great achievement and a great investment. So, but I think that for a pharmaceutical factory which has a lot of affluence, which has almost 4,000 tons of air conditioning, such as ours, we have about over about a million square feet of production area, production facility. You can imagine that there's a lot of activity going on. So we built a effluent treatment plant which is going to recycle 80% of the water. 80% of the water that we consume, or and we will reduce 300,000 tons of reduce the carbon footprint by that much. We have, like I said before, we have almost one of the largest solar powered plants in the private sector. So, and there are many other things. I think one of the best things personally that I feel is that we have planted 7,000 indigenous trees and shrubs. We did research and we selected those trees which are indigenous to Sindh. There is a disease in our country that everybody is planting Cornus corpus, which is a poisonous plant, We did not never have planted a single cornucopis plant. We have done all the indigenous जो सिंध के जो हैं हमारी धरती के जो दरख्त हैं जैसे है कीकड़ है अकेशिया है करौंदे हैं neem hai, lignium, and all these plant. Karachi is a very fertile land, provided you plant something. If you don't plant, trees will not grow.
Yeah.
So you come to our factory and you will see 40 feet high trees, and that also is a little part of the certifying requirements.
Yes.
So this is the announcement I want to make. Thank you.
Congratulations, Khalid Saab. This is an
Congratulations.
amazing
Thank you.
achievement. Yes, bravo.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
May I just ask you, what inspired you to go to build a LEED certified facility, and did you ever think that you'd be creating history for Pakistan?
So, in 1995, when we set up the vision, it was just essentially our consciousness, I believe, that we should care for our future generations. We should leave a better world, do something, a small contribution for this earth, जिसको हम धरती कहते हैं, Mother Earth, and we should do something, and we should. This was my desire. Did I have a idea that will make history? Frankly, I did not, but that did not deter us. We firmly believe that we have to create a vision and follow it resolutely. And if you do good work, good results come. So we kept on doing it from day one, bit by bit, and ultimately, when we became very big, we had a bigger achievement.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry, congratulations once again. This was I believe it takes a vision, and it takes compassion, but most of all, it takes determination and a commitment and the will to achieve these goals like these.
And a great team. And a great team, because the people, the team did achieved it. They worked very hard. They also had the same vision, same resoluteness, same resilience, and they pursued it. It was not easy. Let me tell you, it was not easy. And I think it was. There are times when it was getting to be financially difficult, but I think that if you have this belief that good things pay back in the long run or in the medium run, I think it helps. Pakistan is not the flavor of the day, for most countries, but when they hear that here is a WHO compliant and a platinum compliant company, I'm sure a lot of people would trust us more than they're doing now, and I think they'll also give us business. And also, but mostly, I think we can be proud to be the first South Asian company and in South Asia to be a platinum compliant pharmaceutical factory. Thank you.
Amatsa, would you like to say something?
No, I think this is amazing. I mean, congratulations, Khalid. Honestly, we need such corporate leadership. The corporate leaders who don't do this maybe as part of the typical CSR, which most of the companies are doing. This is where a company senior management, a corporate leader has put up. First, he gave a vision, and then he brought team on board, and then took the team along, and with an objective to work towards and achieve that vision. And these are the people that set good trends. These are the people that set good precedents. And for us as an environmental organization, we also need such examples, so that we need such kind of a demo projects where we can show to others, because there is always the payback. and it could be in different terms. And particularly during this pandemic, where we have seen that everybody's realized that we have broken our relationship with nature. I mean, zoonotic diseases as a pharma company, they originate from wildlife to livestock, and from livestock to human. So we are damaging nature, and the result is that the world is facing such pandemics. And when we say that, inshallah, once this pandemic is over, we need to build back better. So build back better is where every individual, every corporate entity realizes its individual responsibility, its corporate responsibility, and for governments and politicians, their own, responsibility. Until and unless we have this kind of collective vision and collective action, we cannot address these challenges anymore. So I think I keep on saying that we need collective action. We need everybody must join hands. Otherwise, not a single organization can achieve anything.
Thank you, Hamad. I think in the end, I'd just like to say that we need more leaders like Khalid Mahmood, who will propel Pakistan into the future and lead, be a leader, a true leader for others to follow in his footsteps, because it's high time that we as individuals and corporates and government realize that all our collective impacts, all our actions will have an impact on our future generations. With that, I'd like to wrap up this session. I would like to thank Hamad Saab and Khalid Mahmood Saab for this insightful discussion today. You've given us a lot to think about, but you've also inspired us. And thank you so much. On that note, thank you for joining us. Until next time, goodbye and have a great weekend. Thank you. Khalid.